So I guess by now the whole world has heard that someone tried to assassinate a candidate for president. Uh, Trump was at a rally and someone took a shot at him. Managed to, it appears that he dinged his right ear, and Secret Service came in, covered him, and took him away. And this is, you know, someone trying to assassinate a presidential candidate is obviously major news that, and especially with it being the United States, that the whole world is going to cover. So I thought that, which would be the reason, my thoughts on it, which is why you would have come to my channel to begin with, on the actual whole situation. Now, the shooter is exactly what we usually expect a shooter to be. Early 20s, male, and right wing. Now, a lot of people have tried to claim that he is a Democrat, tried to claim that he is a liberal, which I don't think is a valid claim to make, considering that he was a registered Republican. So I don't think they can try to make this thing, well, he was only registered, he wasn't really one. No, because that also works the other way around. As you may recall, you remember that trans shooter that tried to, that trans shooter that was going to do the school shooting and mentioned Bosch as a person that they didn't like, etc. That person was a registered registered Democrat. I believe they were a registered Democrat. They tried to do the whole thing. Well, yeah, it doesn't matter what they say or what they did. They tried, whatever. The point is, the guy was a registered Republican. And it appears that he had voted for a Republican in the past. Now, some people might be asking why he would do this. Well, considering the tremendous turmoil that he's thrown the Republican Party into, someone who is the kind of person who's bound to shoot somebody would be the kind of person who would do this. So you can see with, I think it was Thomas Matthew Crooks. Interesting name, Crooks. It seems like something you would expect in terms of like the motivation, if he really felt that Trump was a threat to the Republican Party and was tearing it apart and was preventing a serious threat to democracy, which he is. He's outright said he's going to basically become a dictator on the first day. He said that he was basically going to overthrow democracy and install himself in as president, make himself immune to anything he does in office, etc. So there's very clearly an anti-democratic streak directly right through him. And anybody who's not a cultist in favor of Trump is probably going to take exception to that. And considering the amount of freedom, democracy that Americans tend to use, so you could see why someone would try to assassinate him. But I find this whole situation, the situation on the ground, very strange. Okay, so this guy, basically what happens is he gets onto a rooftop only 100 meters away from the president. That's nothing. That's really, really close. That's really, really close. I don't see how he could have gotten that close to the president with a gun. Now, yeah, he was on top of a roof, but he didn't really have that much in the way of cover. And there were also police and Secret Service people on roofs nearby, and yet nobody saw him. It doesn't make any sense to me. It would have been very, very easy to spot him if you were on another roof. Frankly, I find that very, very strange and hard to believe. It could very well just have missed him. Just didn't see him. But I really find it really hard to believe. And he was only 100 meters away, yet he had a full-length AR and still didn't manage to really hit the target. I mean, technically, he dinged his ear. But the fact that he had a full-on AR and couldn't hit the guy at 100 meters, not a very good shot. That's I don't think that's really a part of a conspiracy because, literally just as a bad shot. But there are some other things that really don't add up about this story. And not only the fact that he was able to get that close without being spotted, look at the amount of time it took the Secret Service to get to Trump. That took a long time. In terms of the reaction time for the Secret Service, that was really long. Really, really long. Now, add on top of it that when Trump was taken down to the ground, covered, etc., what you do when the president gets shot at, when they brought him back up, he threw his fist up and he sort of did the fight, fight, fight. Now, what I find really suspicious about that is the last time something like this kind of happened, when there was a loud bang and people had thought someone had shot at Trump, they covered him, scurried him away very quickly, and Trump kept his head down, hidden, afraid. Well, of course, you're going to be afraid if you get shot at. But this time somehow somebody shot him, actually hit him, and yet he still somehow gets up to say fight, 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 and just enough time to make some like iconic pose that the media can use as propaganda. Okay, so this is a guy who's probably never encountered any violence in his life that he himself didn't commit on a woman. All of a sudden gets shot for the first time and is already up and doing dramatic poses for the cameras. Because the last time they thought this happened, he didn't do that. He kept his head down and scurried away as quickly as possible. But this time, I'm sorry, this isn't the behavior of someone who's not like I would expect that behavior out of someone who was like almost used to this kind of violence. But the fact that someone like him, who's never seen a fight in his life, all of a sudden has the courage to do that in a perfect propaganda scene, I'm not buying it. I'm not saying that this was a false flag. I'm saying there's a lot here that doesn't add up. That really doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So, I mean, again, I don't know what happened other than, what everybody saw from the actual footage. But there was a very quick jump to blame liberals right away. Oh, a liberal shot him. The liberals are the violence, etc. When, it was a Republican who actually took the shot. And just watching the pro-Trump people utterly lose their minds very quickly, almost like ejaculating on themselves over the whole thing, like this proves them right all this time. I don't know what that's supposed to prove. It really doesn't prove anything he says right. It just means somebody tried to kill him. It's not proof of any concept. In fact, I can't even think of any what concept that could even possibly prove. So watching them just lose their minds in utter told you so over what? That the system was against them? Okay, that is kind of true. But if that was the CIA, they wouldn't have missed. Okay, like, there was only 100 meters away. There's no way, absolutely no way anyone from the CIA would have missed that. If the CIA wanted him dead, he'd be dead. They probably would have just sprinkled something in his Diet Coke that would give him a heart attack, and then he would die, and they would say, oops, old age. Like, this was clearly not an assassination attempt by the government, because if it was, it would have been successful. And it would have been a hell of a lot better orchestrated than this. But I do acknowledge that one of the things about assassinations on politicians in the history of the U.S. is, when was security there and when was security not doing their job? Like, the fact that like, you know what I mean? Like, who had the power to call off security that day or have security not do what they were supposed to do? And the fact that all the police snipers and then all the Secret Service guys on roofs just didn't see that, didn't see a guy with a gun up there, and they had a great, tremendous vantage point to do so. There's a lot really, really suspicious about this. I, I, I would not be surprised if some conspiracy stuff came out, you know, a bit later on with more time passes. Like, I could even believe that this is the kind of thing that Steve Bannon would plot, like a fake assassination attempt. Like, I could almost see that happening. I'm not saying it did, but I'm saying it kind of does look that way. There's a lot of really suspicious things that just don't add up. And I think it's definitely at least worth looking at. It's worth investigating. Because even if everything is as completely superficial as it appears, and everything happened exactly the way everyone said it did, and this was just some guy who just managed to get in there, this is a massive fail for the Secret Service. And I don't, and if they were going to intentionally let someone in to try to kill the president, they wouldn't have had just some guy who's clearly not a very good shot. Like I said, if this was the government, the CIA would have had him down instantly, and they probably wouldn't have shot him. They probably would have given him a heart attack with some kind of poison or something. If this was the CIA, he'd be dead, and there'd be no question of it. There would be none of this. But people are now running around saying that, look, now he's definitely going to get elected. He's definitely going to get elected now because he'll have the sympathy vote. No. I still think he's going to win because Joe Biden has completely screwed his entire party. But do I think this is going to make Trump win? No. No. I'm pretty sure he was going to win anyway. That he's going to win anyway. But I don't think this will change his chances at all. What this will do is fire up his base, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of retaliatory violence against people sometime in the future, because we've already seen his supporters doing violent shit. We saw them intimidating people in the last election, going to voting stations and intimidating people. We saw all kinds of unethical acts in the last election by Trump himself. And this would probably, not organized stuff, but something people just take it upon themselves to do. I would definitely see this happening. I could definitely see something like that happening as a result of this, being angry that their guy was shot at. And, big shout out to Caleb Maupin for crying over Trump, saying, oh, see, they're trying to stop the ... Well, Caleb, are you forgetting that he's a billionaire? And not the socialist billionaire like Jack Ma? In case you forgot, he was the guy who had Qasem Soleimani assassinated, who actually was doing anti-imperialist work and caused a day of mourning for, the whole Iranian people. And Soleimani was very instrumental in fighting ISIS. So if you could not pour your heart out for the guy who got Soleimani murdered, that might be a little bit more of an anti-imperialist stance rather than just pandering to the right wing, because you are right wing, and by your own admission, I don't recruit from the left. Yeah, no kidding. That's because you're not left. You're very clearly a fascist. And this should just be more really obvious evidence of it. Why he's like supporting revolution, but somehow pouring his eyes out for a mainstream political candidate, which he is. If you were the president, yeah, you pretty are mainstream. And that revolution doesn't believe in changing things, that you have to do a revolution kind of thing, the thing that you're supposed to be building, but you're not building because you don't actually believe in it because you're actually a fascist. But aside from all that, so as it stands, Trump is still alive, probably missing a piece of his ear, but is still going to be on the campaign trail. And I'm probably going to call it right here. I don't think it's going to change very much. I think those who were going to vote for him already were. And those that weren't going to vote for him already weren't going to. And I don't think that this attempted assassination is going to swing the undecided vote. I don't think it's going to make a difference. People are pretty convinced that it will, but I'm fairly certain that it won't.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.